By the time Ethan Cole turned 40, applause had lost its meaning. He had stood on too many stages, accepted too many awards, and listened to too many rooms rise to their feet at the sound of his name. Applause used to feel like recognition. Now it sounded like noise, predictable, hollow, automatic. A reflex people performed when they were told greatness was standing in front of them. Ethan learned to smile through it. He learned when to nod, when to wave, when to let the moment pass. But somewhere deep inside him, something had gone quiet, and that silence bothered him more than any critic ever could. Tonight, he stood alone in his penthouse, city lights stretching endlessly beneath him. The glass walls reflected his image back at him, tailored suit, relaxed posture, the kind of confidence magazines tried to explain in 3 neat paragraphs. On paper, Ethan Cole was the definition of success. Self-made billionaire, tech innovator, investor, philanthropist. A man who turned ideas into industries. But the reflection didn't show what troubled him most. It didn't show the fatigue of being admired for things no one understood. It didn't show the loneliness of being surrounded, yet never truly met. And it certainly didn't show the growing suspicion that people no longer saw him, only what he represented. Ethan loosened his cufflinks and placed them carefully on the counter, a habit born from control rather than neatness. Control was the one thing he trusted. People changed. Markets fluctuated. Loyalty faded. But systems told the truth. That belief had built his empire. It had also ruined his personal life. He moved toward the window, resting his hand lightly against the glass. Below him, the city pulsed with ambition. Millions of people chasing something: money, love, status, escape. Ethan had already caught the thing most of them were running after. And that was the problem. When you already have everything, people stop asking who you are and start asking what you can provide. He exhaled slowly. Earlier that evening, he had been at dinner. Another restaurant. Another reservation made weeks in advance. Another woman across the table laughing at the right moments, asking the right questions, nodding just a little too eagerly when he spoke. She had worn elegance well. She had spoken intelligently. She had also never once asked him anything that wasn't safe. No curiosity, no risk, no depth. At some point during dessert, Ethan realized she wasn't listening anymore. She was calculating how this connection might elevate her, how his world could absorb her ambitions. And when that realization hit, something inside him hardened. It wasn't anger. It was clarity. Back in the apartment now, that clarity refused to leave. "You're the problem," he said quietly to his reflection. "You let this happen." From the other side of the room, Daniel Brooks stood near the kitchen island, tablet tucked under his arm. Daniel had been with Ethan long enough to see behind the curtain. He didn't flinch at the self-accusation. "People respond to the version of you they're shown," Daniel said evenly. Ethan didn't turn around. "Then maybe I've been showing them the wrong one." Daniel studied him. "Or maybe you've been hiding the right one." That landed. Ethan straightened slowly. "You ever notice how people behave differently when they think something is unlimited?" Daniel raised an eyebrow. "That depends. Unlimited time, unlimited money, unlimited forgiveness." Ethan smiled faintly. "Exactly." He walked toward the counter and picked up a slim black card resting beside his phone. No logo, no number, just a quiet symbol of access without explanation. The card itself wasn't special. What it represented was no limits, no questions, no consequences. At least, not immediately. "I'm tired of guessing who people are," Ethan said. "Tired of wondering whether someone likes me or the life standing behind me." Daniel's expression tightened. "And this is where you tell me you have an idea." Ethan turned the card between his fingers. "I want to see what people do when the door is fully open." That sounds less like curiosity and more like an experiment. "Same thing," Ethan replied. "Different stakes." Daniel crossed his arms. "And who exactly are you experimenting on?" Ethan didn't answer right away. His gaze drifted toward the hallway that led deeper into the apartment, toward rooms rarely seen by guests, toward a quieter part of his life. "There are 3 women who believe they understand me," he said finally. "Each for different reasons." Daniel waited. "And there's one," Ethan added, voice lowering slightly, "who has never once acted like my money belonged to her imagination." Daniel frowned. "You're involving staff now?" "I'm observing humanity," Ethan corrected. "Titles don't matter." The black card slid easily into Ethan's palm, familiar and heavy all at once. I want truth, he said. Not performance. Not charm. Not strategy. Daniel shook his head slowly. Truth has a way of making people uncomfortable. Ethan nodded. Good. Because comfort, he had learned, was where honesty went to die. And with that decision, quiet, deliberate, and deeply personal, the billionaire stepped into a test that would challenge everything he thought he knew about worth, intention, and the kind of wealth money could never buy. The first woman Ethan chose was the easiest decision. Not because she mattered least, but because she represented a version of his life he understood all too well. Her name was Vanessa Hart. She was polished in the way only intention could produce. Every strand of her hair always seemed to know where it belonged. Every outfit felt curated rather than chosen. Vanessa worked in luxury brand consulting, a career that trained her to recognize value instantly and position herself accordingly. They had met at a charity gala 2 months earlier. She had approached him without hesitation, her confidence smooth, her smile warm but measured. She never pretended not to know who he was. In fact, she treated his reputation like a shared inside joke, something obvious but unspoken. Ethan had admired that at first. Vanessa didn't gush. She didn't stammer. She didn't perform awe. She spoke as if she were already part of his world, as if it were only a matter of time before others realized it too. That was exactly why she interested him now. The invitation went out the next morning. Simple, casual. Breakfast at a private boutique cafe he occasionally frequented, quiet, discreet, elegant. Vanessa replied within minutes. Can't wait. No questions. No hesitation. When she arrived, Vanessa greeted him with a kiss on the cheek and a familiar laugh, slipping effortlessly into the seat across from him. She spoke about a potential brand expansion in Milan, about how the market was shifting, about how people with vision needed to move quickly before trends hardened. Ethan listened, nodding at the right moments, letting her talk herself into comfort. At a pause in the conversation, he reached into his jacket and placed the black card gently on the table between them. Vanessa's eyes dropped instantly. She didn't touch it. She didn't ask what it was. She simply recognized power when it appeared. I want to try something, Ethan said calmly. No limits. No approvals. Today's on me. Vanessa's smile widened, just slightly. Dangerous offer. Think of it as freedom, he replied. She picked up the card now, turning it over, studying its weight. So what's the occasion? Ethan met her gaze. I want to see how you move when you don't have to think about cost. Vanessa laughed softly. That's easy. You enjoy good taste. They left together. By midday, they had crossed 3 luxury districts. Vanessa moved with confidence, directing drivers, stepping into boutiques where staff straightened instantly at her presence. She selected items quickly, decisively. Designer shoes, a tailored jacket, jewelry she didn't try on for long. Everything she chose spoke the same language: status, recognition, arrival. She never once asked Ethan what he thought. At the counter, she handed over the card without hesitation, already turning away to scan the next display. When the receipt printed, she didn't look at the total. To her, that part didn't matter. Ethan said very little. He observed the rhythm of her choices, the certainty with which she spent, the subtle satisfaction that grew more visible as the day went on. She wasn't careless. She was intentional, and that, somehow, disturbed him more. The second woman was different. Lila Monroe was warmth embodied. A lifestyle influencer with a carefully curated sense of authenticity, she built her brand on relatability. People trusted her because she made luxury feel achievable, aspirational without being intimidating. Lila always said she loved Ethan because he grounded her. They met for lunch at a restaurant overlooking the water. Lila arrived early, already filming a short clip before slipping her phone away as soon as she saw him. You look tired, she said softly, reaching for his hand. Ethan smiled faintly. Long week. Then let's make it better. Midway through lunch, he placed the black card on the table again. Lila blinked. What's that? An open door, Ethan said. Use it however you want. No rules. She hesitated this time, her fingers hovering before picking it up. Are you serious? Completely. Lila laughed, a sound half nervous, half excited. Okay, but I don't want anything crazy. They walked through a shopping district, slower this time. Lila paused often, taking photos, pointing out things she liked rather than grabbing them. She bought a handbag she'd mentioned months earlier, but always said she couldn't justify. She picked out gifts for friends. She stopped at a home decor store and lingered over candles and throw blankets. At the register, she glanced at Ethan. "Is this okay?" He nodded. She exhaled in relief, then smiled brightly, as if she'd just been reassured she was still being watched kindly. Ethan noticed that too. By evening, the card returned to his pocket. Lila kissed his cheek and thanked him 3 times before leaving. And yet, as the apartment settled into silence again, Ethan felt the same unanswered question pressing against his chest. 2 women. 2 very different approaches. 2 versions of entitlement. One unapologetic, one softened by charm. Neither had surprised him. It was late when he returned home. The city outside was quieter now, reflective rather than loud. Ethan loosened his tie and moved toward the kitchen, setting the card down beside his phone. From the far end of the room, a soft sound broke the stillness. A drawer sliding open. He looked up. Near the kitchen counter stood Maria, the maid. Middle-aged, unassuming, dressed in the simple uniform she always wore. She froze when she realized he was there. "I'm sorry, sir," she said quickly. "I didn't know you were home." "That's fine," Ethan replied. "I was just getting water." She nodded and turned back to her task, wiping down the counter with careful precision. Her movements were quiet, practiced, invisible in the way service often is. Ethan watched her for a moment longer than necessary. Then, almost without thinking, he picked up the black card. "Maria," he said. She turned, surprised. "Yes, sir." He held the card out toward her. "I want you to take this," he said evenly. "Tomorrow, buy whatever you think is worth buying." Maria stared at the card, then at him, as if she hadn't heard correctly. "Sir, I don't understand." "No limits," Ethan repeated. "No permission required." The silence stretched. Maria didn't reach for the card. Instead, she frowned slightly. "Is something wrong?" Ethan felt something shift inside him. "No," he said quietly. "I just want you to do one thing." She waited. "Use it," he finished. Slowly, cautiously, Maria extended her hand and took the card as if it might disappear. I will return it tomorrow," she said. Ethan nodded. "Of course." She hesitated, then asked softly, "May I ask what you want me to buy?" Ethan met her eyes. "Whatever matters to you." Maria lowered her gaze, clutching the card gently between both hands. "Good night, sir," she said, and disappeared down the hallway. Ethan remained where he was, staring at the space she had just occupied. For the first time since the experiment began, he felt something unfamiliar rise in his chest. Not certainty, not control, but anticipation. Ethan did not sleep well that night. It wasn't anxiety in the usual sense. His mind wasn't racing through figures or projections. Instead, it lingered on small, unremarkable details. The way Maria had held the card with both hands, the way her first instinct had been confusion rather than excitement, the way she had asked what he wanted before considering what she might. That unsettled him. By morning, the apartment was awake before he was. Light crept across the marble floors, and the city outside stretched itself into another working day. Ethan stood in the kitchen with a cup of coffee he barely tasted, checking his phone more often than he cared to admit. He told himself it meant nothing. After all, this was supposed to be simple. People behaved predictably when presented with opportunity. That had been the foundation of every system he'd ever built. Incentives shaped action. Access shaped ambition. Yet Maria had not behaved like an incentive had just landed in her palm. At precisely 8:30, Daniel arrived. He took one look at Ethan's expression and paused. "You look like you're waiting for exam results," Daniel said. Ethan didn't smile. "She hasn't used the card yet." Daniel poured himself coffee. "It's early. She starts at 7. Daniel studied him. "You're invested." Ethan frowned. "I'm observant." Daniel let that pass. By mid-morning, Ethan had settled into his home office, though his attention drifted constantly. Emails went unanswered longer than usual. Meetings were postponed. The black card, absent from its usual place, seemed to leave a physical gap on the counter. Just after noon, Ethan's phone buzzed. Transaction alert. His breath caught before he could stop himself. He opened the notification. The amount was modest. Almost absurdly so. Not a boutique. Not a department store. Not a luxury brand. A medical supply store. Ethan blinked, convinced he'd misread it. He refreshed the screen. The details remained unchanged. His pulse quickened, not with excitement, but with confusion. Daniel, noticing the shift in his posture, looked up. That her? Yes, Ethan said slowly. Daniel leaned over. That's not what I expected. Neither did I. Another notification followed minutes later. A pharmacy, then a grocery store. Ethan stared at the screen, his jaw tightening, not in anger, but in something closer to disbelief. She could buy anything, he said quietly. Anything. Daniel nodded. And she's buying essentials. Ethan leaned back in his chair, eyes fixed on the ceiling. For the first time, the experiment wasn't giving him answers. It was asking him questions. The door opened just after 3. Ethan looked up instinctively. Maria stepped inside, her posture careful, her expression composed but tense. She carried a simple paper bag in one hand. The black card was tucked safely inside her pocket. I'm sorry I'm late, sir, she said. I finished my duties first. That's fine, Ethan replied, standing. Come in. She walked toward the counter and placed the bag gently down, as if it contained something fragile. I kept the receipts, she said quickly. Everything is here. Ethan raised a hand. That won't be necessary. She hesitated. I didn't want you to think. I don't, he said. Please. Sit. Maria remained standing. Ethan nodded once. All right. Tell me. She drew a breath, steadying herself. My sister is sick, she began. She lives outside the city. The clinic there has been delaying her treatment because she cannot pay for certain things. Ethan listened without interrupting. I used the card to buy what she needs, Maria continued. The medicine, the equipment, and food. She has 2 children. She swallowed. I didn't know if that was acceptable. Ethan felt something tighten in his chest. You could have bought a car, he said softly. A house. You could have changed your life. Maria shook her head. I already have a life, sir. I just needed to protect someone in it. The room seemed smaller suddenly. Daniel shifted uncomfortably, but Ethan didn't look away from her. And the rest? Ethan asked. There is no rest, Maria replied. I used what was necessary. She reached into her pocket and placed the black card on the counter, sliding it back toward him with both hands. I don't need it anymore. The words landed harder than any confession he had heard all day. Ethan stared at the card, then at her. In that moment, the carefully built framework he used to understand people began to crack. Maria, he said slowly, did it ever occur to you to buy something for yourself? She smiled faintly. Every day. Then her expression turned serious again. But some things matter more. Silence settled over the room. Not awkward, not heavy. Honest. Ethan nodded once. Thank you. She bowed her head slightly and turned to leave. As she walked away, Ethan realized something that left him completely still. For the first time in years, someone had shown him who they were. Without trying to impress him, without trying to gain anything, without even knowing she was being tested. And that truth left him speechless. After Maria left the room, Ethan did not move. The black card lay on the counter between him and Daniel, its matte surface absorbing the light rather than reflecting it. It had always been an object of power to him, symbolic, efficient, unquestioned. Now it felt strangely small. Daniel broke the silence first. You didn't plan for that, he said quietly. Ethan shook his head once. No. He walked slowly toward the counter and picked up the card, turning it over in his hand. For years, this single object had revealed appetites, ambitions, insecurities. It had confirmed his worst assumptions more times than he could count. But this time, it had exposed something else. Do you know what bothers me most? Ethan asked. Daniel waited. She didn't hesitate because she was afraid. Ethan continued. She hesitated because she didn't want to do the wrong thing. Daniel nodded. That's rare. Ethan let out a slow breath. It shouldn't be. He slipped the card into his pocket, not with finality, but with care. Then he moved toward the window again, resting his hand against the glass as he had the night before. The city looked the same. The buildings hadn't changed. The world hadn't shifted. But he had. For years, Ethan had measured people by how they behaved when given more. More access. More freedom. More money. He believed abundance revealed character. Now he understood something he had overlooked. Scarcity revealed it too. The rest of the day passed differently than usual. Ethan canceled meetings without explanation. He ignored calls that would normally command his immediate attention. Instead, He found himself replaying the moment Maria slid the card back toward him. I don't need it anymore. The words echoed with unsettling clarity. That evening, Ethan sat alone at the dining table, a meal untouched in front of him. He thought of Vanessa's certainty, Lila's careful gratitude, and Maria's quiet resolve. 3 women, 3 choices, and only one of them had made him feel small in the best possible way. Later that night, Ethan called Daniel into his study. I want to change something, Ethan said. Daniel sighed lightly. I figured. I don't want this to end as a lesson I admire and then ignore, Ethan continued. I want it to mean something. Daniel leaned against the desk. What does that look like? Ethan paused, choosing his words